Hi, my name is Emily Summers, and this is my presentation on ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. First, just some background information I found while researching ADHD is that it was first mentioned or recorded similar cases all the way back in 1902. And from 1902 until about 1980, it was basically just categorized as misbehaving, super active, out of control boys is kind of what it was, the target was. And it wasn't until 1980 that it was given a specific name, attention deficit disorder. ADHD has nothing to do with one's IQ or intelligence. It is not intelligence related. And basically, it's a set of problems with a very wide range of characteristics. And each particular patient experiences different characteristics. There may be some that have similar characteristics and others complete opposites. Basically, what attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is that there are problems and issues that we all have and we all experience from time to time, but those who have ADHD experience them more and are so frequent that it has become an issue. It's something that doesn't just happen and we can forget about and move on. It's a reoccurring issue. And it's not under any voluntary control. They have no control over it. When it comes to ADHD prevalence, in the United States in 2011, 11% of students ages 4 to 17 were diagnosed and being served for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. That's the most recent study that the CDC has on the prevalence of it, which means there's probably currently studies going on, and it usually is every 5 to 7 years. So we should be hopefully getting more information and more data soon on those statistics. But that's approximately 6.4 million students in that age range. One of the reasons that there has been an increase since, which I will talk about on the next slide, but there is an increased number of students that are being served since 2003. And over here in the picture, you can see the increase since 2003. But if you go back, some of the reason is because the criteria to diagnose is changed and is always changing as we learn more. The diagnosis, what is needed to be properly diagnosed, is changing. And a lot of it is parent reported. Not all of it is medical doctor reported. And the medications, the fact that we have long-lasting different medications that are coming out, that also affects the increase in the numbers because each year we get more and better medications for these children. Like I said, we are having an upward trend. So each year, more and more students are being diagnosed or reported as diagnosed. ADHD difficulties, they have problems slowing down. We're told to take their time, or when we're like, hey, it's time to go, move to the next task, and they have an issue with that, with speeding up. Listening, focusing, reading and retaining what they're reading, staying on task, which that can be a wide range of things, as getting dressed in the morning or at school on an assignment, and getting and staying organized. So saying, here's your stuff, or here's what we're doing, organizing, getting it in order, getting it placed where it needs to be, they have difficulties with. Something I was unaware of or didn't think about was getting to sleep and waking up. Typically, they have a very hard time falling asleep. They need to be completely physically and mentally exhausted before they can fall asleep. And then on the flip side, they can also suffer from waking up. It's incredibly hard for them to wake up in the morning. Sitting still is a difficulty. Prioritizing their time management skills or tasks. Finishing tasks, so they may be able to start them, but completing them is difficult. Getting the ideas that they have in their heads down on paper is hard for them. And then managing their emotions is difficult. Excuse me. Some characteristics of students with ADHD is drifting from one thing to another. So they may be in a conversation with someone and then will drift to something else and then forget to come back. Or maybe working on a project and go to get something for that project. In the process, they get sidetracked and forget why they went to that place to pick up something or to get something for that project. And then they've started into project number 2 while they were working on project number 1. They're unable to push out and ignore distractions. For some of us, we can look out a window and see a bird. We watch the bird fly off and we're good. A lot of students with ADHD will look outside, see the bird, see it fly off, wonder where it went, think about the bird, watch something else, and then get distracted by what's going on there and unable to push that out and stay focused. Some of the students have problems with worrying. A small worry can really snowball into major worries and constant worry. Trouble with their working memory. So similar to, I came into this room to pick something up. I can't remember what it was, but I'm doing this and this. Or they've read something and they know that they read the information. They can't retain it 2 pages later. Or they cram for a test the night before. They know the information, but when it comes time to take the test, they're unable to pull that information out. Interrupting and talking out of turn. A lot of ADHD students have problems with that. If they're impulsive, they're unable to know that they, can't speak out just because that idea pops into their mind. They have to get it out. The effect on learning and participation. So staying tuned in. An example I heard was that it's like they have 4 or 5 different stations going at once, and it's impossible for them to stay tuned in to one of them. So it makes it very difficult to stay on task and to be involved in that particular task. An example of the memory issue, the working memory issue that I spoke of just a minute ago, is maybe a teacher asks the students in the class a question, and they know the answer to that question, so they raise their hand. They've got a great response for that question, but they ask Sally first. And when Sally's done answering, the teacher then calls on them, and they have no idea. They're blank. Their amazing answer is gone, and so they have to say, I forgot, when they really did have a great answer. So behaviors, there's negative effect behaviors, being impulsive, speaking out of turn, getting out of their seat when they're not supposed to because of all the things that they have with needing being impulsive and not being able to sit still. They're incapable of pushing out those distractions, so that then affects their work, whether they're getting the work done, unable to finish tasks or tests. The here versus there example, so they may do really well on a sport or maybe do really well at home with video games, but at school it's very hard for them. It's just has nothing to do with them not wanting to be good at school. It's just something that they struggle with. They're able to stay focused on certain things. Staying organized can be a problem. They lose papers, lose homework, can't find pencils, can't find assignments, can't find folders. Getting started and staying motivated. So they may be able to start a task and then unable to finish it or not find the motivation to finish it, especially if it's a long-term project. Those are usually difficult for them. Getting ideas down, like I said before, they have multiple ideas, but having to be able to pull those out and write them down can be very difficult for these students. And then because of the sleeping patterns, they can fall asleep in class or they can be almost manic and out of control in class. No, not all students experience the same issues in the same ways. ADHD can affect people completely differently. One can sleep really well at night and not have an issue with falling asleep or being tired when somebody else could struggle with that. An athlete example that I have is of a student that really excelled in sports, but came to school and just wasn't engaged and couldn't engage, and then that affected how he was perceived by the teacher and by the school as kind of a jock and wasn't interested in school, but he was, and he was very, very smart, had a high IQ. But for him, it was just something he could not focus on. He could not get into and was unable to keep up with the work. It's not an all or nothing with a lot of these students. With the majority of them, they won't have all of them. They won't, they may not have all of the same characteristics, and they definitely don't have none of them. So everyone has experiences with these issues, but because of the ADHD, like I mentioned before, they experience them constantly or more often, which then causes the issue. I really apologize. Under IDA of 2004, it's categorized, ADHD is categorized under other health impairments. So that's the category it's under. In the classroom, ways that you can handle it in the classroom with all the students and not just with those with ADHD is preferential seating. So having them sat where they can stay focused the most. So that may be up in front of the room for some students, can be in the back of the room for some students. Providing fidget tools for everyone so that they don't feel singled out. So having a basket or a bin of fidget tools that allow them to get out that energy. Maybe it's a seating option or tennis balls on a chair. So that allows them to get out some of that energy. Checklists are really handy. Did you put your name on your paper? Did you go through all the questions? Did you hand in your homework? Did you bring back your library book? Just checklists for these students really help them. And that they're good for everybody, not just those with ADHD. Utilizing graphic organizers is great for all students, but especially those who struggle with staying organized. So when they're working on a project, having that graphic organizer is going to have everything listed out for them. So when they do forget or they get off task, they look back down and they see, oh, I'm comparing and contrasting the characters of the story. It will remind them, it gets them started, kind of brings them back into focus. Having an agenda, like a school agenda or scheduler or organizer, we are writing down, science today, homework and math, page 22, keeping that for all students to learn, just great organizing skills for them to take home and stay on task at home when they have homework. And then directions given in certain ways. I think that them being able to see it, so having it listed on the board or on the whiteboard or chalkboard or Promethean board is really important, but then delivering it in chunks is something that I learned while researching this. So that allows students to not get overwhelmed by the amount of work they have to do. So for instance, in the morning work, let's say they have math day 14, reading story, the history of ice cream, which is something we're doing in third grade right now, and then daily math, page 5 or day 15. So instead of saying you have to do this, and this before PE, I need you guys to pull out your binder and do your day 4 math and read your story on the history of ice cream. So delivering it in chunks. After you've got to finish that, then let's go ahead and pull out our daily math out of our math folder and let's work on day 15. So just delivering the directions in chunks is really important for these students. And then here are my references that I had. Overall, I really enjoyed doing this research. I work with a lot of students with ADHD, and I found it very intriguing and took many notes because I think there's a lot more to be learned. Thank you so much.